In this video, I want to take a look at how we can create our CSS sheet and start to begin to create our header inside of Dreamweaver. So we begin. In HTML5, there actually is a tag for header. So I'm going to come to my insert and I'm going to hit header. Now I get this next window, which is saying at insertion point, and it's asking me if I want to make it a class or an ID. I am going to make it an ID. And I'm going to just give it a name. I'll just put the name in. So sometimes when we put in the name like header, because HTML5 now has header as one of its tags, and then the head is inside of the HTML, it can get a little confusing. So I'm going to actually give it this name, main header. I'm going to create a new CSS rule. And what I want to make sure is I'm going to make it an ID. Now, why am I going to make it an ID? I'm going to make it an ID because there will only be one header on each page. Now, what I want to do too is I want to create a new style sheet. I'm going to hit OK. And I want to give it a name. I'm going to create a new style sheet. And now I want to add my sheet. Now for my sheet, I'm not going to name it css.css. Instead, I'm going to name it test site. I'll name it after the site and I'll hit save. Now, when we save it, what we want to note is that it's going to be test site.css. Now I get all of these different options. I can set the type. What kind of type do I want to work with? Now I'm going to go for, and a lot of times we want to think about if we want sans serif or serif. I am going to go for some of the Helvetica. I can also come on in here, I can choose the font size. I can come on in and create a box. Now I'm going to set the box to pixels and I'm going to make it 1500 pixels across. And we'll make it, we want to think that every about 72 pixels is an inch, maybe a little bit more depending upon the monitor size. I'm going to make it 150 now. I can also set padding. Padding would be the space inside of the box. And I can set the margin. If I want to set it from the top, I could set it at 15 pixels from the top. And from the right and the left, I can undo same for all. For the right, I'm going to put auto. And the left, I'll put auto. And I'll delete the bottom out and I am going to hit OK. I'll hit OK. And now we have our main header. And we can come on here in here and I could give this a name if I'd like to. I'm going to put header goes here. Now, what could we put in for our header? Well, we could put in an image. There's a lot of different things that we could do. We could put in text, whatever it may be. Let's go and take a look at this in live view and see what we have. So we can see we have header goes here. Let's go back from live. Let's go to design and let's actually work with this a little bit more. So we can actually come on in and we can edit our rule. So I want to actually take a look at my CSS. So I come to Window and I come to my CSS Designer and I'm going to pull this on out here. Then I can see that I have my CSS. Here's my page. I can see that I have my selectors, my selector right in here. And if I want to come in and I want to edit this, I can do that. I can take a look at its properties. I can say, hey, I want to add a property to this. I might want to come on in here and change the font size as I'm looking at it. Say, what does it look like when it's a little bit bigger? I can add other properties as well in here. Now, a lot of times you can even go to CSS and look them up. But another really awesome window that we want to take a look at is going to be our properties window. So when I open up my properties and I come to my CSS, I can also center this. Okay. And I could even click on this and hit edit rule again and come in. If I wanted to add a color to the background, I could do that as well. Come on in, choose a color, hit OK. OK. There it is. Now let's say that I wanted to move this on down too. Well, I'm going to edit the rule one more time and I'm going to come on into the box and I'm actually going to add some space inside of the shape. So what I want to do is I'm going to add some padding and I'm going to add padding on the top, 25 pixels. Let's hit apply. Okay. And let's go for 50 pixels. Let's hit apply. And now when I add the padding, I see the whole thing gets bigger. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to make this 120. I'm going to hit apply and I'm going to leave it like that. So there we have it. We've added a header and we have our first CSS sheet. So let's actually take a closer look at our CSS and see what CSS looks like. We've created our CSS sheet and our CSS sheet is actually connected to this. I'm going to hit File, Save All, and I'm going to come on into my file sheet. I'm going to go to Window. I'm going to open up Files, which is right in here, and I am going to double click and see what this looks like. Okay, sometimes it gets a little tricky here. It's too much open, too much to see. I'm going to try this one more time. Window, Files. All right, so I open up Test Site CSS, and this is what my CSS looks like. Now, I named that selector main header. I know that it's an ID because it has the pound sign. Now I can see all of these rules for the CSS. I set in line 3, I set the font family. Line 4, I set the font size. I set the height. I set the width. I set the margin. I aligned the text, added a background color, and some padding. Now what will happen is as I go and create all these different rules, they'll all end up going on my CSS sheet. So, and as we think about having them all on one sheet, we want to think about how we can go and change. If we have a header on each page and we want to change something about it, we can change it just on the CSS and it will apply to all of the other sheets. So there we have it, all of the other pages. Again, lots of different rules with CSS. This is just beginning to scratch the surface, and we're starting to learn what CSS looks like and how we differentiate CSS from HTML. Thanks so much.